Hey, welcome back to another edition of LFG, your favorite unfiltered franchise education podcast. We are live on location with my co-host, Leanne Caruso. Say hi, Leanne.
Hi, Leanne.
Live on location at the International Franchise Association Convention here in the lovely city of Las Vegas. How's it going, Leanne?
You're so much louder when you're sitting right next to me.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Good. Everything's good. Yeah, we're live at IFA in Vegas. Very fun.
How is
Taking a
your
break.
how is it going so far?
How's it going so far? It's good. It's good. Just coming back from the exhibitor hall, seeing lots of friends and colleagues, meeting some new people. So it's been good.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
Went to the keynote this morning. Keynote was really good.
Oh,
Cole.
very
Yeah,
nice.
she was excellent, by the way.
How about yesterday's keynote?
Missed that one.
Who was it?
Damon John.
Was it? I mean, was that a question or a statement?
Yes. Anyway,
Anyways, that's been great here at IFA, and I mean, not as good as Let's Grow, but but it's been pretty good. All jokes aside, we are super excited to bring on Geoff and Sean of
Xceleran.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Uh, I unfortunately missed the recording of the actual meat and potatoes with Geoff and Sean. Unfortunately, came down with a little something, and so Leanne is going to take it by herself going forward. But before we let her take the show away, we're going to jump to our franchise royals. But before the franchise royals, we have a segment ad, Leanne. And who is this segment brought by?
This segment is brought to you by Netsertive, and we actually saw Aaron and we've seen the whole team today at IFA. So it was really great to catch up with all of Netsertive. We met Gabby, who we just had on the podcast a couple weeks ago. So if you have listened to this podcast, you know I work with a lot of marketing partners and franchising. One frustration I hear all the time is disconnected systems, reporting in one place, ad platforms in another, and no clear view of what's actually working locally. That is where Netsertive comes in. They bring localized strategy, expert teams, and their MLX technology platform together so performance data lives in one place and locations can grow efficiently. If that sounds helpful for your brand, visit netsertive.com to learn more.
And visit them. They are fantastic. And I'm not just saying that. Thank you, NetServe. And back to the franchise royals. Who do you have as your franchise royal?
So my franchise royal, if anybody attended the leadership conference, they always give away a Crystal Compass Award to a person who's very giving in the franchise space. And Kathleen Gosser got the Crystal Compass Award this year, and I'm so excited. I think I nominated her about 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm so glad that she got it. She does amazing things. She worked at Yum Brands for 30 years, and now she runs the Yum Center Global Franchise Excellence. I don't think I got those words in that order. But congratulations to Kathy. I'm so very happy that you've been recognized.
Love it. And so let me just understand what you're saying here, Leanne.
Mhm.
She basically won that award because you nominated her. Is that what you, was
No.
that the implication?
No.
I mean, because that's what I got, folks. Is that?
No. That's not. She won that
Oh.
award because she's amazing, and it's just long overdue. Is all I'm saying.
Absolutely. We're just kidding. Kathleen, congratulations. That is amazing. Happy to be able to announce that
Yeah,
right here first on LFG.
that's right.
And who is my
I was just about to
franchise royal Leanne? Well, let
Why
me
are
tell
you
you.
yelling? Why are you yelling?
I'm not yelling. I talk loudly, Leanne.
Oh my gosh, it's
My
right here,
gosh.
guys. It's right at my.
Wow.
Okay, who
Wow.
is your franchise royal?
You know, I am also bringing a franchise royal right out of IFA. I want to highlight someone who is newer to the industry. My franchise royal is Pete Sakuchi. Pete works with Business Finance Depot, and Pete and Marisol They both came to Let's Grow last month. They enjoyed it. They loved it. They learned so much. And of course, I was in a booth just now advertising our services for the National Franchise Show and for Franchise Assembly. And what does Pete do? He comes on over, brings a prospect, so introduces us, like we've been old time friends for 20 years. He recorded a nice video for us. And, I gotta say, it's really nice to have good, genuine people
Mhm.
like Pete.
Yeah.
And so that going down at IFA, we want to highlight you, Pete. Pete, congratulations. You are our franchise royal for this podcast.
Yeah, congratulations, Pete. It's been really great getting to know him. All right, before we head to our show and tell segment that I do completely by myself, learn more about Paperfly.
I'm just saying
It's
it.
gonna be great.
Hold on, I was gonna say something.
Okay, go.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
It's gonna be great because the guys on there are
They
amazing.
are. Jeff and Sean are really good.
I mean, Leanne's okay too. Yeah.
They made it easy.
Enjoy without me,
All
folks.
right.
Creating marketing materials for your franchise shouldn't be a choice between speed and brand consistency. Paperfly gives local franchises the power to create and adapt brand-approved marketing materials in minutes without needing a designer. With design templates and one central portal, campaigns launch faster, giving you built-in visibility and complete brand governance. See why franchise networks trust Paperfly to deliver thousands of brand-consistent assets at scale. Visit paperfly.com.
All right, welcome back to the show. This is our show and tell segment. Unfortunately, Michael is ill today, so it's just me with Jeff and Sean, but I'm excited to talk to both of you. This is our segment where we bring in an industry leader or experts that share their insights and ideas about what's going on in their segment of franchising. All right, and today we have Geoff Suval, Chief Revenue Officer of Xceleran, and Sean T. Marzola, CEO and co-founder of Xceleran, and lots of other things that you guys have under the umbrella of Xceleran. So I'll let you take it from here. Sean, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, thanks for having us, first of all. And we really enjoyed coming to Let's Grow. Um, my name's Sean Marzola. As you mentioned, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Xceleran Software Inc. I'm also the co-founder and CFO of Xceleran Business Funding Inc. And I'm a partner at Xceleran Capital. So we have a couple different entities, but we're going to mainly stick with Xceleran Software because that's where everything flows from.
Great. Jeff.
Excellent. Yes. Geoff Suval, Chief Revenue Officer of Xceleran Software, also President and Managing Director at Xceleran Business Funding Solutions, and co-founder and partner with Sean at Xceleran Capital. Happy to be here. Can't wait for the conversation.
Excellent. Well, your session, you were the only one who actually talked about this at Let's Grow. So I'm excited to have you here and kind of bring it to life and get more exposure to it. But you talked about the 8 levers that increase franchise valuation and funding readiness. So I'm going to kind of go from there and set the stage a little bit, but you described due diligence as guilty until proven innocent. Can you walk us through what it actually looks like when a PE firm's associates show up at a franchisor's door?
Sure. Let me start us off. If you delve into my background, in my experience, I've raised over $80 million, primarily equity, some debt financing as well. And if you haven't done it before, it's often sort of misperceived how the process is going to go. Because if you're working with a PE firm or an investor of sorts, the partner or the main person who has authority to say yes and write the check, they're going to be very nice. They're going to be fun to work with. They're going to be, excited and enthusiastic about your business if they're interested in it. But then they're going to turn it over to their associates who are lower level than them, right? They're not partners yet. And their entire mission is to make sure that the firm doesn't make a mistake. That's literally their mission. And they're usually incredibly smart, right? They're probably from some of the top MBA schools in the nation. And they're not coming in there to be nice. They're coming in to say, I'm right. And that means I'm right, we shouldn't do this. I'm right, we should do this, but at a lower number. I'm right, we should do this because it's an amazing company. Either way, they're going to be right. So from the partner's perspective, right, they're going to be who they lean on for the actual diligence. So I'm not saying that it has to be an acrimonious process, but it's not about kindness. It's about realities. And so you're guilty until they say yes.
I think this was an interesting number. 1 in 20 franchisors pass acquire scrutiny in their current form. Why do you think the failure rate is so high?
Yeah, so it's primarily that because your average company, small business, does not, even a Zor, right, does not start off understanding what their climate is going to look like when it's time for funding or an acquisition. And so they're not building it from the ground up with that thought process in mind. If you take a smaller version of that, let's take a small company, a small plumbing company, John's Plumbing, right, in anywhere USA, they're going to build that as a family cash flow oriented business, not as a P&L oriented profitable business. And as a cash flow business, they probably live a great life, right? They're probably really able to take care of their families, but they're doing everything they can to not be a profitable company. Because one, they're mitigating taxes. Two, they're using every amount of cash that's coming through. They're not building the P&L such that it can be looked at by a third party and say, wow, that's a really profitable company. We should look into that business. That's why. Jeff, did
Interesting.
you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's actually a great point. They're the reasons why companies position themselves for a sale is very different than a lifestyle type business like Sean alluded to. So we need to know the motivations.
So EBITDA multiples in the franchisor space are running 5 to 15x right now. What separates a 5x franchisor to a 15x franchisor when the revenue and EBITDA are identical? I think this is really like I was looking at some of the examples in your paperwork, and I would love to hear this. It's really interesting.
Yeah, this is always stunning to folks. And it comes down to what I said initially, which was if the diligence is being done with ease and ready and it's good information, of course, that's going to make the associate at the PE firm very happy and they're going to feel risk free. They're going to feel like, oh, this is definitely easy. We should do this. If on the other end of the spectrum, the negative end, everything is like, call it pulling teeth to use a phrase, and the information is not readily available. And in fact, you can't really prove that the Z's are actually profitable themselves. And the information from the Z's isn't readily available, and you don't have the documentation on each Z, then it looks murky, right? So that's opposite end of the spectrums. And then, of course, you have the middle. So 5 to 15 is probably as wide as a barn door. Maybe it's more like 7 to 13, but certainly can go as high as 15 and can go as low as 5. It's just a matter of, you know, the bookends and then what's in the middle. And you get what you earn in the diligence process.
So I guess that's probably why you advocate for franchisors paying for the franchisees bookkeeping centrally so that you can manage all of the accounting and bookkeeping.
This is such a this is such a great and easy thing to do. I mean, with our company, it's so inexpensive.
Mm.
It makes so much sense. But generally speaking, the biggest diligence factor is, are the Z's profitable? And if you struggle to prove that as a Zor, that's going to be a really big issue when it comes time to value the business. So most certainly one of the indicators. I think it's also on the other end too, right? Like how do you grow your locations if you can't prove that the majority of your Z's are XYZ profitable? I think that's another aspect to it that's sometimes overlooked. It's not solely on valuation as a motivator, but it's also like how do you grow? Um, Maybe if we get some time later, I'll give an example of a light bulb that went off with a prospect that we were talking to at one of the trade shows recently. But nonetheless, Jeff, do you have anything to add to that? Because you
Absolutely.
talk to Zors a lot about this.
Yeah, absolutely. In addition to, are they profitable? It's, do they have like processes in place for their accounting? Are they following the same sort of playbook? Is everything structured the right way? So they're uniform. These are all very important. And when the franchisor is helping with the cost of this accurate, consistent bookkeeping, that ensures that all of those things are uniform, which investors, acquirers, etc., really appreciate. And you get the higher end of that multiple when they can be confident in the numbers.
I've worked with so many brands that can't get a P&L from their franchisees. Like they cannot get one. And it's so frustrating. And I think they get so far down the line that they didn't get their system set up properly by doing centralized bookkeeping or centralized options like this. And then they're struggling because they can't get a P&Ls from their franchisees. And then, that affects royalties, that affects everything. And so I also advocate for this kind of centralized management. I think so much of franchising needs to be centralized management anyway, but it's hard to go back once you've taken it that way.
Exactly. Once the toothpaste is out of the tube, so to speak, it's tough to
Yep.
get back in there. So
Yeah. How do you get that person who's 5 year running their own business without having to submit a P&L to all of a sudden have to show their books? Ruh-roh. Um, tell me about AI powered franchisee selection. That's exciting.
That is exciting.
What is
I'm
that?
very excited about this. So we've been adding AI engineers now for a couple quarters, and we've got a slew of AI products that'll be coming out in this, coming, call it 4 to 8 quarter period. And one of the things that we're putting pen to paper with, if you will, is the concept of using AI to determine if their prospects, if they buy a location, will they be successful? And to what degree, right? So you might like someone as a prospect to buy a location. You might even really enjoy their company. But it might be that they're not built to run their own business, or they're not built to run that business. And so that's what our AI powered franchisee selector is going to help with. Now, I don't know that it's going to be the entire reason you say yes or no as a Zor to a location owner, but it's certainly going to help you select, especially if you're in, big growth mode, right? You're going to want all the tools you can get. I sort of liken it to objective and subjective selection, right? So the more objective information you can get, the better. Subjective, yeah, subjectively, you still might say yes if the objective isn't, winning you over, but at least you have both, sides to be able to make that decision as a Zor.
Mhm. That's really cool. What data do you put? What's the data input that is
So
part
it's
of the
going to be
selection?
it's going to be somewhat customized based on the industry of each Zor,
Okay.
but it'll also use things like, for example, you're familiar with like disc personality
I was
tests.
gonna ask that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that kind of information.
Yeah.
We use some of that in our own hiring
Hmm.
for employees. It's just natural to do this something similar when you're
Yeah.
having a Z by a new location. Um, it'll be things like that. Some of it'll be proprietary, but in general, we're going to have multiple data sources and it'll be somewhat industry customized. So we will have to rev it up for an industry. Once we do one industry, we'll still probably even ask a new user
Mhm.
what other information they're using, if any, so that we can just continue to refine it for each customer. It'll be a little bit semi-custom, that's for sure.
Very cool. Yeah, I figured there's got to be some sort of personality culture index or disc or something involved in there because I know that that's a big piece of the franchisee selection process for most brands.
Yeah, super smart. You're spot
Yeah.
on.
So, as a marketer, I think, and I try to tell this to my Fran Dev clients, that the reviews part of the consumer side of the business affects the Fran Dev side of the business, right?
Mm.
So I think in some of your work that you've done, you mentioned that a 1-star review actually, or an increase in a 1-star review can actually lift a 5 to 9% sales lift. So how do you balance automated review solicitation with authenticity? Because I know people are starting to use AI with some of those responses. So how do you find that balance so that you can get that lift?
So such a great question. This is what I'm kind of passionate about for B2C um, Zs or Zors who have B2C
Hmm.
business. You, it's somewhat of an unfair process, right? Because um, you might be in an incredible location and you make one mistake and all of a sudden you maybe get a pile on, of 1 stars. Um, and that's one of the harder parts about running a B2C business. But if you do automate it, you do get some pluses. And so some of those pluses are you can probably get a larger number of overall reviews when you're using automated solicitation. And that automated number helps you keep your average high, number one. And number two, it sort of gives a consumer cause for relief. Oh, I saw this 1 star. It's really horrible, but they have 985 reviews in total. So can't be that bad, right? So I think that's a big factor in using automation for the review solicitation side. And then in terms of answering the solicitations, we actually don't have that in AI yet, but we will, and it will be optional. So
Hmm.
you'll still have the ability to answer. So let's say you're having a slow week as a location and you get some reviews in and you're able to answer them. That's great. But let's say the next week you're slammed. Well, an answer in a timely fashion is way better than no answer when you can maybe get to it 2 weeks from now.
Hmm.
So I think that's the balance between the authentic side of it and the automation. You're better off to have something than if you can't get to it.
Yeah, I know there's some platforms that actually they give you the option. So if you don't respond within 24 hours, it will have an automated response. So it gives you the chance to be authentic and do the do the personal touch. And
Yeah,
then if you're busy or falls through the cracks or sick or whatever, and then you at least have something there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
So tell me about the 4 legs of the bankable table and why most franchisees fall short on at least one of the legs.
Sounds good. Jeff, why don't you take this one?
Jeff's
yeah, I'll,
smiling. He looks like he wants it.
yeah. Well, I mean, this is sort of right in my wheelhouse right here. To become bankable, fundable, attractive in the eyes of the business finance world, whether you're seeking capital loans or looking to be acquired, um, you need to check the right boxes, right? Because you need to look like a good risk or a good investment. And so there are these 4 legs to make sure you complete that bankable table. And the first one is essentially how you show up. There's 20 or so items of lender compliance, and sort of your online reputation that you guys were just chatting about is one of those important factors. If you have a lot of negative reviews, you don't look like a good risk. So you got to try to clean those up. And there are ways to do that. And so checking the right boxes so that you show up the right way, often before you even get to talk to an investor, is really important. And you need to know what those items are. The second leg is having comparable credit and opening enough reporting to the business credit bureaus, which are different than the personal credit bureaus, trade lines. And then it's not just having trade lines and trade lines that report, it's having strong business credit scores. Business credit scores relate primarily to your payment timing behavior. Paying early helps, paying late hurts. You need to know who reports, when they report, and to which bureau. So it's helpful to have that information. There's also a component of the FICO SBSS, which is part of the third leg as well. That's becoming less of an issue for loans beneath $350,000 in the SBA world, but it's still important to have a strong business FICO score essentially. And that gets tricky because every bank has the ability to design and weight their own SBSS criteria. So we need to know which bank we are banking with so we can align with that bank's appetite for risk and preferences. And the last one is having a strong bank rating, which is essentially, keeping a certain balance in your business general ledger account, because the Small Business Financial Exchange is allowed to look into businesses' bank accounts to see how much money is in there. And why are they given that authorization? Because they need to know if this business that's seeking a loan will be able to pay that back. Will they be able to service that? That's why they're given that insight into those accounts. So those are the basic 4 legs of the bankable table to become fundable, and they're important.
All right. So one of the things that I mentioned at the top of the hour at Let's Grow, you were talking about these 8 levers that increase franchise valuation and funding readiness. Can you tell us what those 8 levers are? And then what do we do for franchisors who might not have them all in place, and what they need to do to get the biggest impact?
Sure. So the the document itself that we handed out and the presentation, the slides are available on our site at Xceleran.com. It's Xceleran.com. You just click on the big franchisor button, and then I think you have to put your email address in, and then we send it to you. So you can get the actual details. It's a 13-page document. It's really super detailed. And then you can also get the slides if you want a little bit less detail. But nonetheless, that's all there. I think the best way to answer this question is, what if we said, oh, let's back up a little bit. We're currently doing 5 of these 8 levers, and 3 more will come in this next, call it short period. So when we were doing this presentation, we were thinking of it through a lens of what would we recommend today and what do we see as coming in the future that'll be just as necessary. So that's how we came up with the 8. If I were to be asked, okay, I'm doing very few of these, if any, right now, which would be the ones you would say definitely do? So off the top of my head, I might not get the name of the levers perfect, but number 1, what we're calling sort of a semi-custom software stack, which we of course help supply and build. I want to say number 6 was accounting accuracy. And then if it's a B2C ZOR, I would say number 7, which is reputation management. So if I were doing just a small 2, 3 of them to start, right, those would be the ones I'd focus on. That'll get you the biggest bump in value fastest. If it's not a B2C company, maybe I would add, I think number 5 were the uh, consultant services for each Z. What Z's love is help. And ultimately, that's what a ZOR should be, right? A business coach. And if you have these various different forms of consultancy that you can provide that company, I think most of them embrace that.
It's great. So how long does it realistically take to become funding ready if you're starting from scratch?
Ready to take that one,
Yeah.
Sean?
Go ahead, give it a shot.
To go through an intentional process to truly become funding ready, I would say 6 to 12 months to be able to do it the right way. But you can start moving the needle and have access to certain types of funding programs along the way. And so, but to really get to the point where you look better than 99% of the businesses out there that are seeking the same funds as you, really 6 to 12 months.
It's great. And so what is the most common pushback though you hear from franchisors, and how do you respond to it?
We're actually not getting a ton of pushback on that component. They all know that they and their franchisees need access to money. The only pushback that we get is sometimes they realize, well, we actually have to pay for this coaching to go through this process, and there is an expense to do that. We don't want people going through the process if they're not going to be successful with it. So they truly need to commit to the process, because signing up with our coaches to go through this process won't do anything if they stop meeting with their coach. So we want them to be able to have the bandwidth, so to speak, to commit to the process, to go through it so it will work for them, which will benefit everybody.
You could you could probably add to that though. That's for funding readiness, right? So you could just be talking about one aspect or maybe one of the levers. And so naturally you're going to get different pushback depending on the culture of the ZOR, right? And the
Mm.
tenure of the ZOR. Like if it's an 8 location company that is just starting out, or even maybe they're 10 years old and they're ready to scale now, right? Like either way, that's going to be a little bit different pushback than a ZOR that's, established and has 500 locations. But nonetheless, I'd say the answer to that is always dependent on what their motive is, right? If they're trying to succeed at something, then the pushback's always going to be the same, which is, I wish we would have done this earlier.
Yes.
It's not really pushback, really.
Yeah.
It's more like, you know, how do we now do this? And I think the answer to that is in we have flexibility in our solutions such that we don't have to light switch everything. We can dimmer switch so that there can be progress.
And the last thing that I'll add is basically if everybody comes at or approaches their business with a mindset of, am I a good investment? That ties into these levers that we've been talking about, because the more of those that you have and you're doing, the better of an investment you are for either getting a loan or for attracting capital or a buyer. So having that mentality, am I a good investment, helps.
All right, last question. This is a big picture. Where does the franchise industry go from here? And are the ZORs who don't adopt technology and AI going to get left behind entirely?
Yeah,
Yes.
sort of
I know that
still. Yeah.
one.
I think I think it's obvious what the answer is, but if it's
Yeah.
not, yes, of course. It's there's no possibility that we can continue in any industry without adopting at least some amount of technology. And it's not, just to do it. It's because it can make your business better. But let's step back for a minute. A lot of pushback on adopting technology comes from, well, I'm really passionate about this business. I didn't build it so that I could sell it. That's not the reason I started. That's a valid point. That's a super valid point. And honestly, probably some of the better Zors are because of that, right? That's where the foundation is. So I love that part of it. It's just that life changes over time. And so maybe when you're, let's say you start a Zora when you're 30 and you grow it to 200 locations or whatever the number, and now you're 50 and life has changed for you. Well, inevitably, you might need to move on from that. So if you've built it such that it can always be a profitable, attractive, valued business, there's no downside to that. And adopting technology is going to be critical to that. There will be very few buyers who will be buying companies that don't have automated processes and automated technology that gives you continuity across your all of your locations. There'll be very few of those.
All right, to wrap this up, well, you already mentioned that they can go to your website, Xceleran.com, Exceleran.com. I'll put it in the show notes. Click on franchisors, but you offer so many things to franchisors, from technology to capital to consulting. We didn't go through all of that at the top of the hour. Do you want to kind of give a rundown of the companies now so that we can kind of wrap that all up, and then how they can find you if they want to talk more?
Sure, absolutely. So Xceleran.com is a great place to start. Xceleran Business Funding Solutions is available from there. You can also go to xbizfunding.com. And then Xceleran Capital is, I think, xcelerancapital.com. And of course, you can reach Geoff and I by just going to the contact pages. We get every email that comes in. Rundown of the solutions. It's hard to do. We often say, you know, we didn't build it to start off this way. We built it as a software company. And what ended up happening was, because we're such huge advocates of small business, we ended up adding new things. And that came because people asked us. So if you're using our software and you come to us and say, you know what, my bookkeeper's so bad, I need a new one. She's also retiring next year, whatever. Do you know where I could get bookkeeping? Well, when you're asked that about 155 times, it's probably time to offer it. And because we're lifelong entrepreneurs, almost all of us, we have the answers. We know how to do it. So why not take our best practices and give those as services and products to our customers, our small business customers? And that's how it came about. So there's lots of different things available to us. Of course, we're a software company first and foremost, but if you needed bookkeeping, we're great at that. If you need help finding capital, we're great at that. If you need help just reshaping your business, we're great at that. We do some things with partners. Not everything is organic, but we're happy to help in almost all requests.
That's great. Geoff, any final notes?
I think that sums it up perfectly. So nothing further to add. Thanks, Sean.
Well, it was really great meeting you guys at Let's Grow, and I'm kind of glad that you're coming into the franchising orbit, if you will, and looking forward to getting to know you guys more and seeing, how you can affect and impact some of these small businesses, because I know that they could use your help. So thank you very much. Like I said, we'll put everything in the show notes and look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Leanne.
All right. Thanks, Sean and Geoff. That was great. I'm going to go ahead and do Franchise Mingle by myself, even though this is Michael's favorite segment. Franchise Mingle is sponsored by the National Franchise Show. And coming up in spring, we've got Houston in March, Chicago, April 11th and 12th, Orlando, April 25th and 26th, New England, May 2nd and 3rd, Washington, D.C. and Virginia, May 16th and 17th, and Portland, Oregon, June 13th and 14th. And as far as franchise assembly events are concerned, save the date for the Hello Mastermind Spring Retreat in Portland, Maine, May 18th through the 20th, Franchise Marketing Live in Denver, Colorado, November 2nd through 3rd, Hello Mastermind Fall Retreat in Denver, Colorado, November 4th through 5th. Very excited about all of those events, just finalizing those details now. This episode is brought to you by Netsertive, Papirfly, Franchise Assembly, and the National Franchise Show. Next time, I promise to have Michael back. See you guys soon.